Well, Australia is rolling out the welcome mat for Kiwis, offering a pathway to citizenship if you've lived there for 4 years. The quality of life across the ditch has always been an attraction to Kiwis, especially those working in our health sector. Nearly 5,000 New Zealand nurses, 8%, have registered to work in Australia since August last year. So will we see that number grow? Kiwi nurse living in Melbourne, Kushla McLeay, joins us this morning. Morena, we've had so many people emailing us in this morning about their plans to move over there. What's it like? What are the working conditions like?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I think sort of the biggest thing is probably the pay rates are just so significantly higher than New Zealand that it's quite just unmatched.
How much more are you getting paid over there, can I ask?
When I first came over and I was with an agency, I was earning nearly double what I was earning back in New Zealand and getting all of my travel and accommodation paid for.
Double? Why?
Yeah.
Why are you getting paid so much more? Is the role significantly different over there? Are the conditions different?
Not hugely. There's a lot of rural and regional work that they're really struggling to fill. So I guess that sort of really pushes them to increase the rates to get people into those areas. But the work is essentially pretty similar to New Zealand.
And living there, are costs similar? I mean, are you better off at the end of the week with that double amount of income?
Yeah, so I'm in Melbourne at the moment, and living costs are slightly lower than New Zealand. The supermarkets are definitely much cheaper. Rent's fairly similar, but yeah, definitely much more sort of excess money for things like saving for first homes and travel is much easier.
I guess on that, so you were working in New Zealand for about 6 years as a nurse before you went over there. Is there a sweet spot where a nurse in New Zealand would get paid the same amount as a nurse in Australia, or do they always get paid more? For the rest of your career, would you just get paid more in Australia?
I suppose maybe if you had a very senior manager role in New Zealand, you might be getting similar to Australia. But I guess if you had a senior manager role in Australia, you'd probably still get paid more than New Zealand. So it seems to consistently be higher in all areas.
Of course, at the weekend, we've heard there's now an expedited track to citizenship in Australia. Does this change anything for you?
I guess it sort of provides me with like maybe a little bit more security if I did want to stay here sort of long term. And I think, yeah, it would definitely sort of make a lot of other people potentially sort of stay here beyond the classic sort of few years of Australia and then coming home. So yeah, it might make me consider staying a longer period.
What are your nursing friends up to? Are they already over there? Are there lots of Kiwi nurses there, or are you surrounded by Australian nurses?
There's lots of Kiwi nurses, and there seems to be more and more people sort of hearing about that I know from back home that are moving over, that are messaging me about potentially moving over. So yeah, we're definitely filling a lot of the gaps in the Australian healthcare system.
And for Kiwis looking to go over there and who might need a nurse, are conditions better for patients over there? Are you seeing people faster? Are they getting better service? What's it like?
Yeah, there's definitely better staffing. So I'd say the workload in my area has been a little bit less. There's definitely a lot more people around. And compared to the caseloads I had back home, it's definitely a better workload.
Why would you move back to New Zealand if you were going to move back?
It'd probably just be for the friends and family, and obviously New Zealand's home. So I think sort of that's the biggest pull back home.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Well, Kushla
Yeah.
McLeay, thank you so much for joining us this morning. She's a nurse living in Melbourne, just moved there in September last year. It's not just nurses who've been feeling the pull towards Australia, though. Midwives too. Midwife Wendy Wilkins is based in Queenstown. Good morning, Wendy. You're heading across the ditch.
Morena, yes I am.
Why? What's so good about living in Australia and working as a midwife over there?
Well, I've been a nurse and midwife in New Zealand for over 30 years. I trained as a nurse here and then later on went into my midwifery training. At the moment, midwives, people aren't aware, but midwives are actually getting paid less than nurses in New Zealand, and we've been fighting for this for many years and trying to get the pay parity. So after many years of fighting and just being tired of, constantly, trying to say our case, I kind of have to make a call just to do what's right for myself and for my family and for my future. So as the last nurse said, that we are paid approximately double over in Australia. And so, yeah, of course it is the money. I love New Zealand. I love our system here in midwifery. We've got a very good system, which, I've been working in for many years, and the people here are great to work with. I've got a great team that I work around. But ultimately, that's not going to pay the bills.
Will you be staying there for a long time, though? Like, does this announcement at the weekend change that for you, or were you always intending to go there for a short period of time and return?
I'm going over on temporary contracts. We, as midwives, can go over for a number of weeks, a number of months. They are very short of midwives over there and of nurses, so it's quite easy to sort of pick what suits you and go over. So at this stage, I'm just over there for 3 months, and then I will return. I think the changes with what's been happening over there in regards to citizenship will only, be a more promising aspect for midwives. I know many midwives who I've talked to are over there, and also people that I work with or know of that are intending to go over in the future.
We've been talking about birth tourism this morning, just learnt the term. And of course, if you have a child in Australia and you're a New Zealand citizen, your child automatically becomes an Australian citizen. Would you recommend someone going over to Australia and doing that? Would the care that they get, the parent and the child, be better in Australia, or is it comparable to New Zealand?
I think it depends a lot on the individual, but we used to have that in New Zealand as well at one stage. So people used to come over and birth and be able to get their baby would be a New Zealand citizen many years ago. So yeah, I think it would be quite a good aspect. Maybe the child's future that they've got could get an Australian passport as well, and options. I definitely think that's an individual thing.
Midwife Wendy Wilkins, thank you so much for joining us this morning.